Yes, a lot of energy going on this morning. Good morning, everybody. It's nice to have our guests and visiting Rotarians with us this morning. I'm going to call on Ross Geller for our invocation and pledge of allegiance and four-way test.
Thank you, Jim. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Let us pray. Almighty God, we come before you this morning as a club dedicated to service above self. We ask that you will continue to bless us individually and our families, this club and Rotary International, that we may serve you by serving others. We ask that you will guide what we think, say, and do for your will and glory. We thank you for this food and all your blessings. Amen. Amen. Join me in the pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For all we think, say, and do.
Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Has Mike Bowers come in yet? Mike Bowers. We need more to Sergeant Barnes.
43 members here today, and we have two member guests. If Wayne and Dennis would introduce.
Okay. Wayne, will you introduce?
My guest here is Steve Barton. He's with Sun Health. Oversees 6 practices, so kind of see.
This is my guest, Mike Bone, and he's going to introduce himself.
I'm Mike Bone, moving here from Tampa, or in the process, going to work for the new Contour Brands, the Wrangler jeans, spinoff from Kid.
Mike Bruce, nice to have you guys with us this morning. Rick Martin, in the back. How about a birthdays and anniversaries?
Of course I'm here. We do have some member birthdays last week and this week. Is Kim here this morning?
Nope.
Right.
She's out of
Wish her
town.
happy birthday from last week. And Blake Hunt, has anybody seen Blake?
Yes, he's here.
And,
Of course he's here. Right next to him.
all right, the 22nd. Happy birthday, good sir. And club anniversaries. Mark is here today. And Mark, how many years you been with us?
One.
One. Here's another one. Richard Martin.
That was a tough one.
Oh yeah, here we go. One year for me too. And Danny Farrell's got a wedding anniversary also on Blake's birthday, 22nd. Danny? Yeah. Know you're here? There you are. 25th. 25th. There you go. Your first birthday. So that wraps us up here.
Thank you, Rick.
Yes, sir.
So Kim is not here today, and I'll just put a quick plug in for Out in the Garden. The event, it's March 2nd, and you should have had an email last week from her on that. We'll send it out this week. A reminder on that. Matthew, do we need to talk about anything?
Yeah. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Morning.
Well, drive. Today not driving, but you look well. I had rescheduled the trash cleanup for this weekend, and I think, given it's going to be 27 Saturday morning, and there's some artificial joints in this room that might not work well in that temperature, I think we might just postpone it again. So we will. I'll keep you posted. I'll send an email out, and that's all I got for now. Thank you.
Thanks, man. Hey, Justin, I know you're not prepared for this, I didn't say anything, but you want to mention the four-way speech contest?
Yes, I'll mention it. I don't have the date in my mind, but the four-way speech is coming up, and our group at Page has already said they already have 6 students interested. So that's boatloads a lot more than we had last year. So we're excited about that. But I'll send an email out to everybody to clog up some more of your email space. So.
Well, the interesting thing is, if you know a high school student that'd be interested in participating, first prize is $1,000, second prize is $500. This is a very worthwhile speech contest, and it's centered around the four-way Yes. Did not see Chip Person here. I think he put a plug out last week for Enduring Gratitude, and maybe an email around that. What about Happy Dollars? Did Buster slip in? Where's Buster?
All right.
What else?
I'm talking about Matthew here. Give me a
Tony gave me some monster truck tickets last weekend, and for taking little girls to the monster truck show, I've never heard Charlotte go woohoo so much in my life. It was a blast. So I'm very appreciative of that.
Yeah, I want to give thank you to Steve Scott for allowing us to install flooring in his rental house. Thank you, Steve.
Did he get the good stuff or did he get the cheap stuff?
He got the good
I got some catching up to do.
$10.
All right. So, first thing on the agenda, thanks to Jeff. If I had to leave early, which I kind of do, I got a preview, and I can watch this video later. I got a preview on April and Jeannie's ride, reading Star Mountain Magazine. Thanks a lot, Jeff. That was awesome. Great article.
Yeah, great article. Thank them.
And now, I have, okay, well, my anniversary just happened, 22nd. That's awesome. And Mary Kate and I were actually, everybody was gone Saturday night, so we had the house ourselves. And then we have, let's say Joseph was off the, I don't want to hear it. Joseph graduated in December from NC State, double major, biochemistry and psychology, and he's going to take a semester off work, probably go to grad school next fall. So there's just Sean on the payroll for full-time for school, and he's doing a great job. He's finishing up, and hopefully he'll walk in May, but he'll finish his classwork in the summer. So then it's a short window. Paul came home from UNC Wilmington because of the hurricane issue and damage to the buildings. We got a reboot. He's taking a gap year, but he's taking chemistry and biology over at GTCC to catch up. And the last, we got this crazy Labradoodle puppy that's getting fixed today. Yeah. That's all.
Yeah, I'm sure he's.
I'd like to thank everybody for going in the car and everything. Thanks so much. I do appreciate everybody.
So I'd just like to give a shout out to a couple of Rotarians cooking. And John Spillman came out on Monday on MLK Day out to our warehouse. We advertised a food giveaway for federal employees who are affected by the shutdown. And we ended up having about 150 families. We gave out approximately 22,000 pounds of food. Wow.
I first got to know one of our speakers, April Harris, when we were doing something, one of the many wonderful things that Action Greensboro and she does in the community through work with the Downtown Greenway. And we had a great day on Monday as Van Dorn Hinnant, a one-time local artist who's based in Durham now, helped to establish some sculptures and public artwork that he had crafted, as well as the Martin Luther King bust, as we dedicated a new portion of the Greenway since we've been working on them for now 12 plus years. And it's a great thing for Greensboro, and it's a great thing for the folks that have been involved and for the folks yet to come. So it was a great day.
Okay, so I feel like an update for Rosa and Victoria is probably due. Victoria is very involved in Young Life right now, and I could not be more grateful for that. And she's doing driver's ed, so I don't know. I just don't know what to think about that. And Rosa, for those of you that have had a junior in IB or heavily loaded academically, you know what I'm going through. And for those of you that have not yet been there, there is no way to prepare you. But we toured some schools over the weekend. We saw St. John's, Parsons, Drexel, and Marist. I have a feeling my daughter will not be in North Carolina if the scholarship guides are in her favor. She's really, 1 foot out the door. And that's pretty much it right now.
Shout out to Bob at Classic Import. Saved me $3,000 and the car runs great.
You're only putting it up, bud, don't you?
I figured someone would do
I'd like to thank Christy Milhan for taking me for a tour to her garden center where they get ready to till the soil. I got to meet Lily, who is your head gardener. And I recently joined their project where you pay $500, and then from April until October, every Wednesday between 3 and 6, I'll go and pick up a box of fresh vegetables. So, and if you can't make it that week, then you can go ahead and send someone else over there to pick up your box. And if no one picks it up, then they'll give it back to the community. So it may be something y'all might want to think about doing and supporting another project for Out of Garden. And you know, I'm just so glad Christy's in our club.
Well, just to let you know that Dale and I were listening to the announcements last Thursday when Charlotte said, "Pick up trash." We showed up at the World of Beer and waited and waited and waited and waited. It was like warm. We had our coats on, no rain. The only thing we didn't have was trash bags, but we finally learned. Or where to go. Or where to go. That's right. That's right. But we had a cup of coffee. Dale and I had just a great time together, and we couldn't have. That's something that we could not have put on the books if we had tried to. So I encourage you to listen to the announcements. And if you think you want to go ahead and go early, just go on and go.
You have one more show you got to make up.
That's right. That's right.
Be sure and check your spam folder.
That's right.
This would have been rescheduled.
That's where it was. Problem's fixed.
Go tomorrow.
So in my present situation, employment-wise, I always think about what Grandpappy always said. He said, you know, people say nothing is impossible, but I do nothing every day.
Hey, Bob Hayrock, can I call you down front real quick? We have a little bit of business to take care of.
Okay.
Bob is a rejoining member. We're so glad to have Bob. I'm glad you dressed up for this. It's a special occasion. Bob has completed all the steps to move to what we call we should call this a white badge, as you can tell. We called it the blue badge since we had the old round blue badges forever. So this is the conversion from the red to the blue badge, which is white. So I'm going to trade you. So we'll swap me. I'll take the red badge. I'll present you the white badge that we call the blue badge.
Can I have his red badge?
I think Chris Jackson asked for
You
it.
have the magnet off the back. How's that?
There we go.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Welcome back.
Good morning. We're in for a treat this morning, guys. This morning we're going to be hearing from April Harris and Jeanie Duncan. They took a trip, as you might have seen, across Alaska on motorcycles. And I've seen some of the pictures. This was one of those bucket list things probably for them, but I'm so glad they're here to share with us today. The thing is, these aren't two people that with a lot of time on their hands. These are both two very, very dynamic young ladies. April Harris, some of y'all might know Jay, her lesser half. She's a founding partner of HQ Greensboro, and also worked very early on with The Forge, North Carolina's largest makerspace. 14 years in community service. Let's see, and is founder of New City Ventures also. They advise people in the areas of entrepreneurship and community development. She's also working currently with the North Carolina Folk Festival, trying to get them a wider exposure. If anybody's been to that, you know it's an incredible event that I'm kind of glad that more people don't know about. But at any rate, Jeanie Duncan is president of Raven Group, business that she founded. Probably learned a lot at the North Carolina the Center for, or the Center for Creative Leadership, who's a coach there, and knows a lot about apparently business transformation, training executives to make better decisions, to make better companies. And also works with probably executive search, that kind of thing. You get the idea, if these two ladies put their heads together, they could pretty much conquer the world. So please give them a warm Rotary welcome.
Thank you for having us. This is our second Rotary event. We're running through the circuit and we're enjoying it a lot. I love Rotary. I love everything about what you guys do, and I'm really hip on community service, so thank you for everything you do. So this trip that we took, we're going to run through it and talk to you about what we learned. And I guess the first question you're asking is why? Why would we do this? So we're just, you know, two gals living here in Greensboro, living our lives, have never touched a motorcycle. She rode on the back of a dirt bike a couple of times. I had a scooter, so that was as fast as I had gone. But I had a friend, we were having lunch one day, and she said, you know, April, I've never done anything hard. And I thought to myself, have I ever done anything really hard? Yeah, I've done hard things. But something really hard that really tests your limits. I kept thinking about that. My sister lives in Anchorage. Their family's in the military. They have some military bases up there. So I'd been to Alaska, and it's absolutely gorgeous. People, have you been to Alaska? I mean, it is phenomenal, right? And so I thought, what would it be like to learn how to ride a motorcycle and go to Alaska and ride in the summer on these bikes? So I turned to my friend Jeanie, and I said, I'm going to ask you a question. And if you say yes, you got to go through with it. She said yes. So we talked about it. You know, Alaska's really big and really far away. She was in agreement, and we decided to go for it. So where we went in Alaska, if you can see this map here, Anchorage is the largest city in Alaska. It's basically Anchorage, and then once you leave Anchorage, it's nothing. You know, small towns, very few roads, as you can see. So it's a pretty easy state to understand. This peninsula here, just south of Anchorage, has a lot of coastal views and things like that. So we chose that because not only did we think it would be beautiful, it's also where the tours go. So these group tours where you can rent a bike and go. We're not tour people. They tried to get us to do that, and we were kind of on their way, you know, we wanted to do our own thing. But this is the route that we went, and our destination is the Homer Spit. So if you see this peninsula and this city here, Homer town, I guess is what I call it, it's really a fishing village. Alaska really has fishing everywhere. Homer is a really neat town. A lot of artists live there. They say it's sort of the Asheville of Alaska. So we thought, well, that looks like a pretty good destination. It was manageable in terms of the distance. And so I think our total distance was maybe about 800 miles. So I think it was probably four down and 4 up roughly. And the smaller map here is a small boat harbor. But this is really the reason why we chose Homer. It has 360 views of these amazing mountains, and 4 of which are active volcanoes. So it was a tremendous experience. In fact, we had to sort of teach each other. We had microphones on our helmets so we could communicate. And as we first started out, I kept hearing Jeanie go, "Oh my God!" And I kept thinking she was having a problem. But she was really just, you know, every turn was just one view was more beautiful than the next. So we got our communication down pat after a while. So here's our timeline. And, you know, a lot of this, it's not about so much a travelogue. This is about choosing a goal, and then what are we going to do to get there. So I remember she called me and she said, all right, well, what do we do? Well, we have to learn how to ride motorcycles first, right? So we go to GTCC in the summer, and I tell you that asphalt tarmac was awesome in July. Great instruction if you ever want to do that. It's a weekend class. I highly recommend it. I wouldn't have done it any other way. We passed with flying colors. I got the highest on the written test, and she got the highest on the driving test. So we felt like we made a pretty good combination. So then, well, what do we do next? We have to buy motorcycles, right? We're training, so we're thinking about training. So we've got this time period that we want to span. So we went out and bought bikes. This is a picture of us on our maiden voyage coming out of her parking lot. And I tell you, there were some times where you just had to grip it and go. You know, it's just kind of overcoming that fear that you have. And one thing we learned in the class, and we've talked a lot about this, is risk acceptance. So riding a motorcycle has an array of risks involved, and you can't alleviate those risks. You can alleviate some of them, but you'll never eliminate all of them. So it's just being able to accept it and go with it. We did a lot of planning work. I think we're here at the Henry in that picture. And there we are, 1 year later, at the Raleigh-Durham Airport, taking off. We flew to Anchorage and rented our bikes from this fun gal, Robin, who does it for a living. This company, MotoQuest, has branches all over the world, so you can go anywhere where there's a MotoQuest, rent a motorcycle, and go. So here we are, we're excited. We drove BMW F700s, is that right? Rented them from this place. It was terrific. And you can imagine the amount of preparation, and Jeanie's going to talk about this. Just understanding about the equipment, understanding about the bike. We knew we were going to be in some isolated areas, so what would happen if, you know, we had trouble. We had to run through that. We watched YouTube videos. We talked to a couple of other people who had done it, and that was very, very helpful. We talked to one guy that went from Greensboro all the way up to Alaska to the Arctic Circle and came back in 7 weeks or something. It was crazy. We knew we wanted to stop along the way, so the first leg of our trip was on the Seward Highway. So we're starting here in Anchorage and we're going right here. And this is a picture I took from the airplane. This highway goes right along the coast. It's absolutely magnificent. This is a big body of water that sort of flows in and out. It's all glacial water too. It's all flowing off the glaciers. It's fantastic. And here I am with packed up, ready to go. We're camping. So we were going to go, we were 2 feet in. We are not going to stay in hotels. We're going to camp. So that was another thing too. If you've ever been backpacking, you know every ounce matters. Well, every ounce for us on the bikes was tremendous. I remember when we first showed up, I had packed these bags and they were so tall. This woman, Robin, said, "You got to do something. You can't have this big tall thing." So we put as much as we could in these things and kind of smashed it down. I've got a shout out here to Wolfman Luggage. And I'll show you the bag. We've got a couple of visual aids. This is one of 2 bags that I had, and I think Jeanie had a couple. It's insanely waterproof, and all of our gear fit in here, and they were our sponsor. So we made a little personal bet one day. I said, I bet I can get a sponsor for us. So I started, because we're buying all this gear, and I thought, yeah, we're a good demographic, right? You know, we're professional women, we've got money to spend, you know, we're going to get something here. So I kept tagging these different companies on Instagram, kept tagging them, and finally they bid. And we got all this luggage at a deep discount. They gave us some free stuff. We had to post a travelogue and do some product reviews. And we did a few shout outs along the way. So that was really fun, to pretend like we were cool with the sponsor. So here we go on the highway, and then we get down to Tote, Alaska. This was a gold mining town. So Alaska really began not only with fishing, but gold mining, people coming up from California, and just absolutely fantastic. This was one of our first times riding on gravel. You know, who knew? But we're just, oh, gravel, woo, you know, insane. Beautiful campsites, as you can imagine. This is a view from our first campsite. In the summer there, you know, it only gets dark for a couple of hours, so we sort of had to get used to that. We're just sitting around at the campsite, and you know, it's 12 midnight, and we gotta go to bed, you know. So masks and got in and all that. We went down to the next morning. We actually drove past the gas station because we didn't know that this was the gas station. There's the gas. And as all good travelers do, we wanted to go to the liquor store. This is the liquor store. And you had to call from that note, the phone number, and they would come down and open up the liquor store. Yeah. And this guy's family had been there for like 3 generations. They ran the gas station and the liquor store. So, yeah, it was really fun. Yeah, dusty bottles up there. So then a friend lent us a cabin. This was the one sort of civilized night we had, but it was in the middle of a nowhere. And of course, we didn't know anything about bears, what bears were going to come and get us. So we're just worried all about bears the whole time out in the middle of nowhere. Every sound, you know, you think it's some bear. Had a great time hanging around in this cabin. Then we started going down. This river here in the middle of the peninsula is what was the name of the river? I can't remember. Anyway, it's a river. But as you can see, the water is just absolutely gorgeous. And we had a little bit of cell coverage, so we tried to call home and let people know what we were doing. And they were, I think, a little worried, but they knew we had it together. We actually rented a satellite phone in case we did lose cell phone coverage and got in trouble. We were very safety oriented, so we really tried to cover all the bases. And here we are, we arrived at Homer, and it was unbelievable. The minute we pulled up, we had 2 nights reserved. The minute we pulled up, we got another night because we said, this is too unbelievable to not stay for another night. So I'm going to turn it over to Jeanie about what we did next.
The whole time April's talking, my smile is wrapping around my head. This was just the most fun, amazing experience of my life. And I've done some pretty fun, awesome things in my life, but I'm just mindful of the fact that it's been a few months now, 6 months since we did this, and I'm just like, God, it's great to talk about it again. So as April said, this is Homer, and I've never seen anything like this in my life. Camping on a beach, but the background was like, we drove into Alaska, and as April said, we had the communication device on our helmets, and I was just in complete and utter awe of what I was seeing. I came away from Alaska, the phrase that I came away with was rugged majesticness, if that's a word. And I don't care if it's a word, it's my word, my word for it. It was the most beautiful countryside I had ever seen in my life. And folks, Alaska wasn't even on my list. Not even a bucket list or destination I had thought about going to before. If it's not on your list, put it on your list. The most awe-inspiring place I've ever been. So we rode into Homer, and as April said, it's kind of like an Asheville meets the Pacific Northwest and very rugged fishing village. And so we stayed 3 nights there, and it was just an amazing experience. I was lucky enough to have my birthday in Homer, and my good friend here treated me to kayaking and great food and everything throughout the day. And this was a guided tour just off the coast of Homer. It was just a wonderful, beautiful day. And then leaving Homer, we headed north. And this is the time that we actually stayed in a lodge because we encountered some pretty significant weather. Rain, like the first week was heaven. You see all these sunny photos. The second week was rain and cold. And we had never experienced that before on our bikes here. We don't typically ride in the rain, right? This time of the year, my bike stays parked in my garage. As if any of you have bikes, that's probably where yours is. But we were smart about it. We had the right gear, as she said. We have some of our gear over here today, but all the gear all the time. And so we were as prepared for it as we could. And so we stayed in a lodge for a couple of nights because we needed a little bit of a break from the downpour and everything. And then while we were in our hotel after a hot shower and about a 10-hour nap, we mapped out where we were headed to next, despite the weather, because nothing was going to stop us with this. And we went to this place called Skilac Lake. And so April's looking at the map one day, and we like going places that not as many people go. And so this was a 20-mile stretch of dirt road, and we'd never really ridden on a dirt road before either. We have road bikes and ride the streets around Greensboro and North Carolina, but This is a 20-mile stretch of road, and I think this was my favorite part of the entire trip, because it was so off the beaten path, and this was your scene. You didn't run into other people, cars much, and it was just beautiful, beautiful countryside. We stayed in a campground there for a night or two, I think, and we had dinner here. This was our site. This is April here. Because it was raining, we're like, we're not going to miss this, so we had a little fire going, and we made shrimp that night and sat out and watched these loons. This is a loon here on the lake. There were a bunch of them on this little island out here, and we just sat there for hours and watched them. And as April said, the sun doesn't set this time of the year, so you just had so much daylight to enjoy. And this is the place where we thought if we were going to encounter bears, we would probably encounter them here. In fact, though, when we got back, the next week when we returned, one of our friends here sent us a note saying that campgrounds had been closed for the rest of the season because of just menacing bears that wouldn't leave campers alone. I don't think they harmed anyone, but they certainly gave a lot of people a scare. And fortunately, they didn't come around our tent. We were really glad they didn't. And so this is still in that area. We just love this vista. It's just amazing experience. And so a little bit about, as April said, this is not just a travel log. We're walking away with, this is a huge metaphor for life. We think about, what made this trip successful? Because we had, a good amount of risk involved with this. And so we have a few things we walked away with that made it a success. First of all, seeking advice. REI I loved REI before, but it is now my favorite brand on the planet. Favorite store, favorite brand. They were so helpful. A guy there connected us with a couple of guys that had taken the trip from North Carolina to Alaska. They rode their bikes about 14,000 miles. As April said, we were just a little shy of 1,000. But they gave us great advice, priceless. So that was very helpful. We did this test camping trip. So these are our actual bikes that we own, and this is our little campsite in the background. We just went over to Hagenstone Park. But all of our gear was new. I mean, we had camped before, but we didn't have backpacking gear. So we bought all new gear. It still had all the tags on it, and so we needed to cut the tags off and give everything a try. So that's what we did. That's one of the best things I could recommend, because you knew what worked, you knew what didn't, you knew what issues or challenges you might have, and getting used to the weight on your bike was really important. It was like having another person on your bike, and neither one of us ride with other people on our bikes. So it gave us a chance to get ready. As you see, the ground is gravel, so we rode a little bit on gravel to get used to that. It's a very different experience, and safety is key to keep your bike from tipping over. You certainly don't want that to happen. Planning. We are planners. April's more of a planner than I am. I have to work a little harder at it, but man, that's critical with this. So we started planning, as you know, a year in advance. And so with an experience like this, where you're going into a countryside whose wildlife is wildlife like you've never experienced. I mean, moose, we saw quite a few moose. You had warnings from people going before you, moose crossing, with baby moose and all of that, and bears. And so you've got to really respect nature and the wildlife. So we anticipated all kinds of scenarios, and we tried to be ready for that as April. So we had a sat phone, the bear canister, and that doggone thing, you can see the shape of it. It's like, oh, it was always taking
made
so
for
much space.
backpacking, right? You put it in your backpack. But we put all our food in here, and then at night, it's another great advice thing we got. All toothpaste, anything that smells like you, put it in here. A bear can't pick this up, it's too slick. Yeah. So I think, I don't know if this caused no bears, but this is a good thing to do.
We think everything we did caused no bears. We're taking it all again next time. So no, that was a great purchase. So anticipating those scenarios. Flexible itinerary. We had it generally mapped out. Okay, here's our route. Here are the stops we're going to make. We made just a couple of campground reservations, but we left the rest open to flexibility and pacing ourselves so we wouldn't be rushed. Robin with MotoQuest was great. She reviewed it and gave us some tips and insight. And again, we borrowed the itinerary, kind of from what they do, but we didn't want to be a part of a tour group. And then priorities, know what is important to each other. You know, we're great friends, we've known each other probably 20 years now, but we've never traveled together. And so we talked about what was important to us and what our styles and, you know, peculiarities are, and that really helped a lot as well. ATGAT. Who knows what ATGAT is? All the gear, all the time. We take this super serious. You ever drive around and see motorcyclists without a helmet on, or you see them with a short sleeve shirt and shorts and sneakers? That's just crazy, in my opinion. Just crazy. And as April and I say, maybe that helps cull the population, you know, people that are crazy up here. We need fewer of them. But we are all the gear, all the time, no matter what. And that asphalt, that 110 degrees asphalt when we were getting our training, you know, sweat but be safe. Communication, communication, communication. Again, in advance talking about our styles, but communication on the helmets. We were going south for this long stretch, and we were constantly going, okay, what happens if we encounter a moose coming into the road? You know, we've never had that happen before, so what are we going to do? How are we going to alert one another? What happens if, you know, cars fly by? And so we talked about those scenarios as we were driving. So that was very important. Gear. So we were just showing you the bear canister. And we had this bag that was an essential bag. Can you guess what this is?
This was, someone told us to have this bag.
Those guys.
Those guys.
Yeah, those guys.
They said, you need this O bag. So in this bag is a mini air compressor, tire repair, water repellent for your helmet, and this stuff called CAP, C-R-A-P. You put it inside, you know it? Oh. Yeah. Oh, you just guessed what it was. Yeah. You put it inside your helmet, and it keeps it from fogging up. And that first time we hit that rain, we said, pull over and get that out. So we put that. It was a great tip, right? It's just like a $5 item, and it probably saved our whole afternoon.
Yeah.
REI.
That's right. REI, REI, REI. And then we have our motorcycle jacket over here. We have one of our helmets. It's got lots of padding in all the right places. You know, you feel so cool when you put that on. Kind of walk a little taller.
We got a lot of attention at the campgrounds, and we're like, we're so cool. And then like something goofy would happen.
Yeah.
Fall over. Not so ever. Yeah.
And then we have this tape bag.
Yeah. So this sits on the front, like this.
Yeah.
And so you can, we have a map in here, and you can put your, so it's sort of like, you know, all your essentials are in here. If you're stopping at gas, you've got your wallet right in here. You don't have to start digging in the camping stuff.
You got your bear spray. The canister is about this big.
We slept with the bear spray.
We did. We would stop and pull over and eat a snack, and we'd have our bear spray. You never know. Be prepared. And every ounce matters, so everything was just super lightweight, and that's what you pay for, too. All right? So, bears of Alaska. Fortunately, this is the only bear we saw. Was in the art museum the day we were leaving. We decided to go to the Anchorage Art Museum, and this is the fellow we saw, and we thought, I'm taking a picture of that. And so, in terms of what we learned, we said this is just a travel log. So the metaphor on life for us is, you know, we really approach this, there's risk in everything you do, right? You think about your work life, you think about your personal life, so not running from it, but being prepared, thinking through, anticipating, you know, what questions are going to be asked, like in work situations, or, you know, what's the worst thing that can happen, and what will I do if that happens? For us with this, you know, they said count on not having any cell service whatsoever. That way when you do have it, you'll be happy instead of being constantly frustrated. So we did get a sat phone, but we just unplugged from technology. The only thing about technology that we kept up with was we had to please our sponsors, so we took photos and posted and did some things along the way. Approaching things with a learner's mind. I think it's really important. One of the things I do in my life, every year I set a goal to do something that I've never done before. So I feel like a 5-year-old. So one year it's learning a foreign language. One year it was learning to play an instrument. Another year, this year, I'm working on writing a book. I've been saying I'm going to do it for a long time, and I'm going to do it. I've never done it before. Learner's mind. So this trip this kind of experience is a good example of that and how it prepares you. Motorcycle riding takes so much energy. I had no idea. We were starving the entire time we were gone. We would get to a destination and have a meal, and I mean, we were just like, nobody was watching us. But it takes a lot of energy, and I think it's because you are so present. And another thing we say, all the gear all the time, never a drop of alcohol when we are operating a motorcycle. You cannot, even completely free of that, you cannot be alert and present enough. And so we don't ever do anything if I'm kind of have a cold or if I'm not feeling well, I don't get on my bike because you've got to be super alert. And think about that if that's the way you approached, your life. It's be fully present where you are, be super alert, pay attention. I think we would, tap into a lot more that's going on in our life if we actually lived that way. So this was a great learning from this. And just imagining and anticipating what to expect was all key. So lots of lessons we walked away with. We cannot wait to do this again. So when we did this experience, we bought the bikes and we said, yeah, we'll do this. And if we have a great time and we're done, we're done. We'll sell our bikes. And I have to say, not any time in the near future. We love this. And so we're already planning more of a local trip in May where we can ride our own bikes, probably just like to the Smokies or the mountains. I've actually not even ridden my bike to the mountains before. That's what our friend Robin at MotoQuest said. She said, so what camping experience have you had so far? What motorcycle trip experience have you had? We're like, none? Why not start with Alaska, right? So we're planning this in May, and then probably in 2020, 2021, we're talking about a west coast, maybe from Vancouver down through California, the Pacific Coast Highway, doing the same thing, camping and exploring like that. And then who knows where else in the future. We're really excited about it. And thank you for giving us the opportunity to share about this experience.
Curiosity question, so what obstacles did you run into? Any flat tires, any drop bikes, any of that stuff?
No flat tires. We did tip a time or two. And it happened on a dirt road pulling into the driveway to that cabin that was out in the middle of nowhere because the roads were really rugged, and we actually were slowing down to stop to be sure we were where we were supposed to be, and the gravel was just really loose and soft dirt underneath, so we whoop. But we were like, right, knocked it right back up.
Did you anticipate hecklers or road rage or crazy drivers, things like that?
We did talk about it because some of our family mainly, brought it up and were concerned about it. We didn't have any issues. We had some, in the heavy rain, we were going a little slower, but we had pullovers all along the highway, so we didn't really face that. About the biggest thing I did, I pulled up to a gas tank, not the one you saw in here, but a real gas station, and I pulled over, and we were, it was that rainy day, long tired, and I was filling up, and I was at the pump paying, I got the nozzle, and this guy said, I didn't know that bike took diesel. Almost to put diesel gas in my bike. I was like, oh, thank you. April, did we run into anything else?
Not really. We were pretty good-natured about it, and so, the people in Alaska are tremendously helpful and so nice. Really among the nicest, almost as nice as Greensboro.
So your bikes that you rented were BMWs, right? And
Yeah.
then what did you guys buy for your own personal bikes?
I have a Triumph Bonneville T100.
Mine's a Honda CTX, 750, I think. Yeah. One piece of advice we got was not to start with a 250 or something because we would easily sort of outgrow it. So we went ahead and got the 700, 750. And I don't regret it at all.
No.
You really want that power.
You don't want to outgrow it. And it's hard to believe, we were like, oh God, because we trained on little Honda 250s or something. But yeah, these are like 750 and 900 bikes that we have.
Rip it and go.
Yep. Yes.
So you talked about your timeline, but how many days on the ground was it Anchorage to Anchorage, start to finish?
Like 2 weeks?
Yeah. Just shy of 2 weeks, probably like 13 days.
Jeanie and April, did you ever feel, there's so much preparation, not only before the trip, but every day? Did you ever feel like, gosh, it would be nice just to be able to go, the idea of shortcuts and everything and having to sit there and say, gotta get the gear, make sure the bike is balanced, make sure did you ever sense how much time you were spending doing that daily as opposed to riding?
We paced it really well.
Yeah.
We had time for that. Like in Homer, we didn't get on our bikes for 3 days.
Yeah.
When we were there. We
And it's
camped
fun
and
when
just
you're with
explored.
somebody, right? So we're constantly, how are you gonna pack this, and how are you gonna, there's all this stuff, and so it was like we were learning along the way, and so there was never that sense of, gosh, I wish I could just rest. I never wanted an RV or never, the only time we needed a hotel was that time it was raining bad.
Yeah. And so we were riding on average, when we did ride our bikes about 3 hours a day.
Yeah.
So,
We didn't want to do
it
this whole
wasn't-
thing of, 8 hours and then, we just want to enjoy it. Yeah.
What's your Instagram? Y'all both have Instagram, I think, right?
Yep, hashtag Vroom Alaska was our hashtag, VROOM Alaska.
Broome, Alaska.
And so if you hashtag that on Instagram, you can see all of our pictures.
It's great.
Does Hawaii have a trek like this? Y'all should do a TV show.
That is
in
a
Hawaii.
very good question. Probably. I know
Yeah.
Vietnam, Japan, China, they have Europe. MotoQuest has all kinds of locations around the world. We had such a good experience with them, we'd probably find where they are and rent from them again, but we're pretty much on our own with planning and executing. They have guided tours and all. She kept saying, well, if you just do the tour, I wouldn't have to answer all these questions for you. We're like, no thanks.
Folks, I'm going to ask April and Jeanie if they would just stay around.